What's up guys? Different location. We have moved to a different place. We're basically a lot closer to the gym, which is nice. So I think it's like a 10-minute drive from the gym, whereas last time it was a 30-minute drive. It's actually a half an hour walk, so it's really ideal for myself. And also it's a much nicer house, more space for Milo, a bit brighter, it's good for filming. So we're basically in the process of moving our stuff in fully, so the house isn't like fully done yet. Well, it's done, but it's not like all set up. And yeah, today's video, we're going to talk about lots of different things because I'm doing a Q&A. So basically we're going to sit down and you've all sent your questions, and if you haven't sent your questions, still watch, because we'll choose loads of different questions that cover loads of different topics. So if you are thinking of something in your head right now that you want answered, we'll probably answer it. And basically I just want to make this video very informative. It's my rest day, you know, we're not training, we're not doing any posing, we're not doing any of that stuff that we usually do. It's just going to be me sat down, answering your questions and helping you guys. So a bit more of an informative video really, and you know, keeping it pretty simple. So hopefully you like that style of video, switches it up a little bit. And yeah, I've got my meal cooking right now, so I'm going to eat that first. Just my second meal of the day on my rest day, which will be nice because I'm starving. I guess whilst that's cooking, I'll just quickly say like where I am right now in terms of my phase of dieting and so on. So I'm literally 8 days away from finishing this diet, which is nice to say. I have really enjoyed it, and I really have enjoyed the process of seeing my physique get leaner, which has been nice, but at the same time I'm just really kind of at this point very excited to crack on with progressive training again. So yeah, only 8 days left, and that's why I'm a little bit more hungry now, you know, feeling it, excited to eat and all that stuff, which is, you know, I'm quite enjoying it though, because when you go so long pushing up calories, it's refreshing to have the ability to enjoy food, or even like enjoy like a Diet Coke, you know, instead of just feeling like bloated. You can enjoy these things and you enjoy the taste of things, and yeah, it's a nice feeling. So yeah, anyway, we're going to get on with the video. I'm going to eat, like I said, I'm starving, and then we'll answer your questions. Let's go. Nice. It's actually cooking quite well. So you probably notice there's a wall in the background full of all these different, well, it's a map, it's a global map, is that right?
Yeah, it's a global map of the world.
A global map.
The world map. I guess the landlord likes countries and travelling, but yeah, we're not, that wasn't chosen by me. Funny enough, actually, out of every subject I did at school, geography was the thing I did best on. So yeah, I guess I'm quite interested in it, but yeah, I wouldn't get a whole wall covered in different countries. And I'm looking at it though, it's quite interesting, it tests my knowledge. But if you're wondering why, yeah, that wasn't me. Look at this tiny portion of rice. That is sad. Nice.
So when do you get to have more rice?
Well, 8 days, I guess.
How much more do you get to have?
Well, I'm guessing in this meal will be like 100 grams instead of 50, so double.
Okay.
But I mean, we'll probably put in like 1,000 calories just to, because I'm on really low food. So I'm on like 1,900 calories. So, well, today I'm on like 1,750.
Fair.
Yeah.
1750.
Yeah, just trying to get in and out. I'm losing like 1.5 kilos a week.
Jesus. Prep.
Yeah, it's like prep. Right, let's do it. Let's do the Q&A. So I've got quite a few questions here. If your questions doesn't get answered, sorry, like I can't do them all, but I'm gonna do as many as I can, and the ones that I feel like would be really useful to kind of other people watching as well. So, and also ones that may be a bit more interesting. So maybe the first one we'll start with will be a bit about, well, regards to myself. So it says, would you want Milo to be a bodybuilder, and would you coach him? So I have no Like, I don't mind what Milo is going to do when he grows up. Like, I have no control. I wouldn't ever want to kind of push something onto him at all. If he wanted to be a bodybuilder, I wouldn't stop him at all. But I wouldn't try and like force him into a way of deciding his decisions, because I want it to grow organically. Like, for myself with bodybuilding, I didn't have my parents saying you want to do bodybuilding at all. I got into it myself, and I think that's important because it showed me that was my passion. Whereas if you kind of have been fed it from a young age from your parents, you might start to question whether you're doing it for yourself or whether you're doing it because you're trying to fit some type of person that you kind of want to be under your parents' eyes. So I wouldn't ever try and push that onto him. But equally, like, if he did want to be a bodybuilder and he wanted guidance, I would help him for sure. And yeah, I guess I would coach him for free because it would be quite a rewarding process. I mean, Milo does hit a lot of bodybuilding poses. He's been to so many shows. He's not even hit 2 years old, and he can hit a side tricep and a side chest. If we go like this, he'll go and apparently, yeah, we'll take his top off and start hitting poses, which is very funny. But yeah, clearly we are already influencing him, which might not be good. But okay, so the next question, training related. On a leg press, quad bias, is it bad to not touch the board with the heel to gain more range of motion? So I don't think that's a problem whatsoever. And equally, this is the same point for hack squats as well. A lot of very knowledgeable individuals preach that letting your heels come off because you're trying to have a very, very low stance to gain more knee flexion is only going to give you a greater stretch through the quads and therefore a greater stimulus. So yeah, if you can keep the heel planted, great. But if you can't, I wouldn't avoid that stance. And if you keep practicing it, you will adapt, you'll get better at training like that. You'll almost get good at just pressing on the balls of your feet. Some things you need to consider though is like, can your calves tolerate it? So just make sure you're not going really, really heavy with bad form, because you don't want to be putting too much stress on your calves. And just see how it feels and go from there. But just give it time. Like this is the point with all things with training, is give training time. Don't just judge a set based on the first time you do it. Do it a few times, maybe even more than 10 times, and then once you get into once you gain a good understanding of how it feels, then you can make decisions. But I think something like this is, it's like a long-term thing, and I've been doing it recently myself. I've been lowering my stance, and since doing that, I've noticed a lot more development around the knee, more vastus medialis development, so the teardrop, and that's actually an area of my quads that I didn't have as much because I wasn't as strong as doing squats with my feet really, really low. So yeah, definitely give it a go, see how it feels, and I'm pretty confident you will see a good quad development from that. So the next question, another training one, average workout time for hypertrophy. So I wanted to talk about this one because I feel like this is something that a lot of people think about and worry about, is like the time periods of rest periods, the time of their sessions. I honestly have never timed anything like that, and I don't think you should. You should ultimately try and do as much work as you can do, which still allows you to get as strong as possible. So do those two things, that's it. As much volume as you can whilst getting as strong as you can. If you do too much volume, that will limit how strong you can get. Equally, if you just focus on getting really, 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 really strong, you do like, I don't know, just deadlifts, like a couple sets, and just focus on that, you're then sacrificing stimulus across other areas, right? So it's finding that balance and then resting appropriately. So every single set, you can go into that set with absolute intensity, absolute freshness. You can really maximize the work that you do within that set to create as much mechanical tension as possible. You're not going to create more mechanical tension resting for 30 seconds. All you're going to do is limit it because you're not going to be fresh enough to move a greater amount of load. Just make sure you're resting, like your rest periods aren't too long that you're going into the sets not warm anymore. Then obviously that's a problem. Just keep warm. But other than that, you don't need to time anything. You don't need to time your sessions. Just see how much volume you can do whilst getting really strong. Take your time. If you need to be in a rush because you have other things to do in life, that's fine. Then that's when you get a bit more smart with how long it takes. But other than that, when it comes down to actually growing muscle, there isn't a strict time period, basically. So the next question was, what really keeps you going in this sport? So I guess from literally the start of my career, really, in terms of competing, the thing that kept me going the most was the understanding that you can continually improve, and the next time that you step on stage will be an improvement and something that you can't see yet. You can see it in your head, but it's not actually, formed yet, and that's always excited me. So I'm thinking now, like 2025, what's my physique going to look like? And that's excited me. And all the work I do right now is leading up to that moment that I'm visualizing. So I guess the key thing is just visualize goals ahead of time and see them in your head and chase them down and be really excited about them. And that isn't just about competing. It's also about your training. Think about movements that you do in the gym that really excites you and chase them down. Think about your physique. Think about just where you'll be in life, all these different things. So maybe traveling around the world, competing. So yeah, the future is what excites me. And I think that's the key thing. And believing in like what that future that excites you is, fuck. And just having absolute faith in the process, and that future that excites you will happen, believe that it will happen. And then that will keep you going. That's what has kept me going in this sport, is just, itching to see what's around the corner, but also not being in a rush. So, yeah. So the next question, should we have 2 different workouts per week for a muscle group or whatever? So when it comes to programming and doing things frequently, so training a muscle group twice per week, it really comes down to your weaknesses and your strengths. So we want to make sure we're creating like a big amount of stimulus per week, okay? So the weak points I would advise doing twice per week and doing different movements. That keeps the excitement high, because obviously if you're doing the same stuff over and over again, it can be a bit monotonous. But equally as well, from my experience, if you do the same movements a lot, almost too frequently, it doesn't give enough time for adaptations, and it doesn't really allow you to get as strong as you could. And then also making sure you do multiple movement patterns, so it really prevents the chance that you'll be imbalanced when you step on stage. If you hit loads of different movements that hit different areas, it just really promotes a bit more of a balanced physique, which is important. So I would say not necessarily if you've got strong points. So I have clients, if they have really strong legs, they can hit legs once a week. Equally, like if their back's really strong, and so on. But for the most part, yes, train things twice per week, but not even twice per week. It doesn't have to be twice per week. It can be twice within your rotation. My full rotation is 11 days long, so I'm training muscle groups twice within 11 days. So I've got 2 questions here that kind of will relate to the same answer, so I'm going to do both of them. The first one being one new thing that you learnt this off-season that really made a positive change. And then the other being best tips for a natty to make the most out of a bulk in terms of training. And obviously that last one, I could say quite a few different things for that, but I think I'll just keep it to like one very clear point, which is, if the thing that I learnt the most, my last push, it was my longest push I've ever done, okay? I was in a surplus for over 10 months long, and that was actually after gaining some weight pretty quickly post-show. So it could have even been a little bit longer, and there is merit, if I went for a bit longer, that could have actually been useful. So the thing that I've learnt the most is time is key, and that weeks where you climb quicker to some degree isn't going to mean that you get stronger at a faster pace. So it's about finding the perfect rate of gain that allows you to get stronger, but also isn't too quick that you're just going to have to diet in 4, 5, 6 months. In terms of that question that's said about how to get the most out of your training if you're a natty in a bulk, it's just rinsing and repeating for as long as possible. So if you can do, a hack squat, and you keep turning up with it for 10, 11, 12 months straight, every single week you go into the gym, body weight has climbed by, a pound or half a pound up every single week you're in the gym. You are in a positive situation there to get stronger. You're in a situation where you can progress and build new tissue. So the key thing really is making sure you can bulk for a long period of time, and not basically letting the momentum shift by having to go into a diet, because you might be in a bulk 6 months down the line and you might be going really, really well, but actually you need a diet because, yes, okay, we're limited in terms of pushing up because of how well we can train, our recovery, insulin sensitivity, stuff like that, because we're too soft. But equally as well, you might just be too fat to carry on going, because if you want to step on stage and you want to compete again, you're going to have to pull off a lot. So give yourself loads of time, and that is a key thing to really maximising your bulk. Next question is a good one. How low were your calories during the last moments of prep? So I think it's good to stress that, firstly, everyone is different. Some people will be dieting a lot more food, some people will be dieting on lower food, and just because someone is on lower food doesn't mean they're struggling more than someone that's on more food. If you were to compare me and Richard, my client Richard, he was on a lot of food, I was on significantly less. Why is that? Well, his job is extremely demanding, mine isn't. He's also like 20 kilos heavier than me, so understand that. So when you ask someone like, what were your calories? Don't just go, okay, well, that's kind of, don't think about your calories compared to theirs. Yours could be really, really different. So, but my calories at the end of my last prep was around like, I think 1,600 calories, which was very low. I don't think it will go that low next time. We, whilst the prep was a pretty good prep, to be fair, I think it can be better, which it will be better next time. And giving ourselves the ability to pull off less in the same time period, but just a lot less weight, it will mean we won't need to bring food down as harshly. We won't need to be trying to pull off weight quickly. Whereas when you want to pull off weight quickly, obviously food has to go down pretty low. You have to create a bigger deficit, right? So yeah, I was on 1,600 calories. That was the lowest I think it went. I think it was around that 1,500, 1,600. But also, like, if you're getting that, like, it depends what condition you're in. If you're getting really pilled, like, obviously food might have to get low at some points. If you compared it to Richard, I think he was on like 2,400 at the lowest. So yeah, it's like I said, everyone's different. So the next question is to post some photos of your trajectory since you started in the gym. So Aaron will sort that. They'll be somewhere here, showing basically how I looked at the start versus maybe like into a couple of years and then competing and so on. So you can see my progress and you kind of get a good idea of how gradual it actually really is when you're natural. Recommended rate of loss during a cut to preserve as much muscle as possible. So I would always say if you're on a prep, aim for less than 1% per week. If you are going to lose around 1% or more, do it at the very, very start, because diet fatigue will be much slower, then slow it down massively. If you're doing a aggressive diet phase like I'm doing right now, you don't need to lose less than 1% per week. Understand that all it will take, understand that at the end of this diet, you're not stepping on stage, okay? What happens at the end of this diet? You reverse food up lows and you go back into the gym. Any lost tissue that would have happened, whilst we do want to protect it, of course, it will come back on so easily. It's so easy to regain lost tissue. It's much harder to build new tissue, okay? So it makes more sense anyway to just be pretty assertive in your diet. Try and spend as little time as possible in the diet in an aggressive diet phase. Just get in and out, get back into a surplus, and make sure when you look back at your last 3 years off season or whatever, the majority of that time you were spent in a surplus. That's the key thing to building lots of tissue. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about losing quicker in an aggressive diet. As long as you train smartly, you train accurately, you train well, you're not going to lose tissue that much. And once you get back into a surplus after, you will be all good. But if you're in a prep, yeah, 100% less than 1% per week. Be smart, be steady with it. Honestly, the key there is just protecting the tissue as much as possible in a prep. So we've got one more question here. Will I hop on gear in the future? So I honestly think probably not. Like, I don't think I will, because I'm just very invested now in the natural bodybuilding process. I'm very, I guess, into the whole idea of being in this sport for a while, making sure I can give myself the right time to progress and see where I can go naturally. You know, I like that challenge. I like the challenge of, like, will he get an IFBB Pro card naturally? Could he build a crazy physique that people don't believe he's natural? That's my goal. And if I went on steroids, it would almost be like I would be going to step 1 again. I'd have to build loads of tissue to get back to that sort of level I'm at in terms of within natural bodybuilding. Now, outside of natural bodybuilding, it would take a while, and it would take, you know, it might take a lot of drugs, and I don't really want to go down that route, especially now where I am with my online coaching business. I guess when I first started this whole competing side of things, I used to think that I may go assisted when I was older because I didn't think I could make money in this sport just by staying natural. Now I've realised that's completely changed. I've realised that you can make money, you can make a living, you can make a good living even by being a coach. And I actually think being a natural bodybuilder inspires people more and helps my coaching far more than going assisted. So yeah, doubtful, never say never, but very unlikely. Yeah, I just feel like I'll be giving it a lot more time. And yeah, that is pretty much most questions ticked off. Wait, someone said, do I miss rugby? I'm doing both and it's funny as hell, but so damn difficult. Yeah, I do miss playing rugby as well. That's for sure. But equally, I care more about my bodybuilding goals now, so it's got to be done. I do miss, I watch people playing rugby, I'm like, yeah, it would be fun, but what would happen if I went on there and just got an awful injury, you know? That's not what you want to happen. So, but yeah, cheers for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this more informative video and a Q&A. Haven't done one of these properly like this before. So yeah, I think it was good. And yeah, we'll just keep the content coming. Weekly uploads are not going to stop, and we'll see you in the next video. See you soon.